Hello everyone, Silent here and welcome back to another Bedrock Edition tutorial. Today we are asking a relatively simple question, and that is, what is the fastest way to travel in Minecraft? It is deceivingly simple, but has a very complex answer because there are just so many different ways to travel. And in today's video, we're going to be examining about 32 or so different ways of traveling in your Minecraft world. Of course, all the standard ones, some quirky ones, some ones that you might not even know about. And once you have watched this video, you'll know faster ways of traveling, which will save you time, allowing you to do other things besides just walking around your Minecraft world, getting from place to place. So, without further ado, let's find out what the fastest way to travel in Bedrock Edition is. So the methodology for this is incredibly simple. Basically, we're going to travel 100 blocks in a straight line, time that, and then divide it by 100, and that'll give us a blocks traveled per second. And as you can tell, walking is very slow. So we all know that walking is obviously going to be one of the slower ways of traveling. However, running is a little bit better, but probably not as good as you think. A simple thing you can do while running is jumping, and that will speed up your travel just a little bit, but it does have a tangible effect. Now, of course, this is going to kind of destroy your hunger, so there is a trade-off. You will have to eat a lot more. The run jump effect is compounded when you are on ice or blue ice because you slide a little bit every single time that you land from a jump, so that does speed you up ever so slightly. Something everyone loves to do is jump in these two tall tunnels with a wall of blocks above them, basically to smash in your head into the ceiling. And the thing about this is that it is technically pretty fast and it's pretty decent for travel, but it's going to immediately destroy your hunger on Bedrock Edition, and you'll find yourself needing to eat immensely. We ran 100 blocks and lost 2 hunches of hunger, and if I keep doing this, we're basically going to drain that hunger bar immediately. So there is some cons to this one. You're gonna have to eat and slow down very often. So it's not even really that fast to jump in a tunnel with blocks above you, and it destroys your hunger. So overall, not a good one. Would not recommend that. But let's try it on blue ice with blocks above you. This is another one that I see pretty often, and let's find out just how fast it is. Okay, this is actually pretty fast. This might be worth the hunger. Soul speed is something I don't feel like gets enough love in Minecraft, so let's find out if it is worth it. We have soul speed 3 boosts, and we're going to be running, and this does feel like it is pretty fast, honestly. I would also like to test the soul speed 3 with the ceiling jump just to see if that has any kind of effect on the speed. So out of all the running and walking trials, it turns out that run jumping on a bed of blue ice with a ceiling above you is actually the fastest at nearly 16 blocks per second. And the second fastest is actually just run jumping on a road of blue ice without a ceiling above you. Overall, this one is about 11 blocks per second, and because you're not like spam jumping against the ceiling, you're not going to be destroying your hunger. So honestly, I feel like this one is actually the better way of going, simply because you're not going to have to slow down all the time to eat food constantly. And now for some watery experiments. So let's get a nice little baseline and figure out just how fast swimming is. And now let's go ahead and try that in addition to some soul speed 3. So basically we're going to be maybe running and swimming at the same time. And yeah, this is already much faster. How about we try just a good old regular boat on some water? You can't really go wrong with this. It's nice and peaceful. So unfortunately, all the basic water travel is kinda silly, and we don't have Dolphin's Grace on Bedrock Edition, so we don't get like the super speeds from that. You can of course use the speed potions or beacons, but that's a bit unpractical. Now, tridents don't really work underwater. They send you like 10 blocks. So for our trident riptide test, I'm going to be launching ourselves out of the water because that is just so much better. Boats, of course, have other use than just being on the water. You can put them on ice, and then things get speedy very quickly. So I have multiple different ice ways set up here. The first one is just regular ice. This one is packed ice with a regular ice block every other block. And let's see how that affects our blocks per second. And now let's try pure packed ice, blue ice, and 1 regular ice every other block. And finally, just pure blue ice. So blue ice boats are so fast, I have made a 1,000 block long stretch just to test this out on a super flat world. and these things are basically the fast. So keep in mind, there is a little bit of variability in the rates because the boat doesn't start off going maximum speed. There's a little bit of speed up time. However, what I've done for this one is I let the boat get up to maximum speed and then it counted 100 blocks of the stretch from, like, you know, 500 to 600, and it basically took 1 second. So at maximum speed, you're basically going 80 blocks per second, which is far too fast, and you're not really going to be able to get the full potential out of this on realms and servers because your chunks just aren't going to load fast enough. So that's definitely the fastest way to travel with a boat, but what's the slowest way to travel? Obviously, you can just put it on the ground, and this is pretty slow, but there is a slightly faster way. Basically, if there's no blocks directly underneath the boat, it goes a little bit faster than it should. As you can see, it does actually have a bit of speed to it, and this is a really weird little quirk of boats, or maybe a bug or something like that, but I don't know when you would use this. And then, of course, we have just the good old-fashioned minecart rail. Simple, straightforward, but also pretty expensive. Speaking of minecarts, we have an honorable mention of piston bolts. The fastest these things usually go is about 29 or so blocks per second if you want to stick with an easier-to-build design. Oftentimes, they are kind of complicated, or they just, in general, require a lot of resources per block traveled. So if you need to go a far distance, it's going to be a pretty heavy time sink to build it, and it's going to require a lot of resources, but of course they are pretty cool, and it's also fully AFK travel, so there's some pros and cons to be weighed. Moving on to one of the funner ways of traveling, ender pearls are honestly pretty great. So if you aim at a certain angle, you can get a much further throw, and then of course you can also like run jump to try and give it a little bit more momentum, and in general you can get about 100 or so blocks in a single throw, which is not too bad at all. And of course, the elytra is also one of the best ways to travel in Minecraft as well, and if you use your rockets pretty generously, you can go super fast. One of my personal favorite ways to travel is just riptiding in the rain, even without an elytra, because you can have a lot of fun just kind of zipping around the world, and as long as you are smart about it, you're not gonna smack into the ground. You just gotta kind of stay off the ground. Sometimes you hit the ground. And as we all know, the pig is of course the best way to travel in Minecraft. Look at his little legs go! Skeleton horses may not be the fastest way to travel, but it's definitely one of like the cooler ways to travel. Let's be honest, skeleton horses are amazing. A little less scary skeleton is the regular horse, and these guys vary in speed a lot, but on average you'll have one that goes roughly 10 to 11 blocks per second, and you can of course find horses that go much faster or horses that go much slower. It's really just going to depend on what you got. Now that being said, Bedrock Edition has a bug where you can breed super speed horses, and there's really no upper limit to this, and basically you can just get horses that go over 30 blocks per second, over 45 blocks per second. Really, the more you breed them, the faster they're gonna get, and it's honestly amazing. Not only does it just affect horses, but it also affects pigs and striders and mules and several other things, I would imagine. So check out my recent bug rock video if you want to learn more about that. This one's kind of a cheaty entry though, but it's technically one of the faster ways to travel on Bedrock Edition, and it's definitely more flexible and cheaper than a blue ice boat or like a piston bolt, for example. Striders are actually a really good way of traveling. However, of course, they require the lava. So if you happen to be in the Nether and you got a lot of lava everywhere, consider a strider. They're honestly pretty fast, and they're super cheap and just absolutely adorable as well. One of the most insanely fast ways and insanely broken ways of traveling in Minecraft is via riptide elytring in the rain. Seriously, you can get going incredibly fast because your speed just keeps on piling up, and you will break the world basically, or you'll crash into a mountain. Trust me, I know from experience. Seriously, we've already gone 4,000 blocks out, and that is just absolutely ridiculous. You can't really talk about fast travel without mentioning nether portals. It takes 5 seconds to go through a nether portal, and then of course the loading time. However, basically like the entire point of the nether is fast travel. Every single block that you travel in the nether is equal to 8 blocks in the overworld. So if you need to travel 800 blocks and you walk 100 blocks in the nether, bam, that is 800 blocks in the overworld, for example. So you can really significantly speed up your travel time just by going through the nether. You can essentially travel 8 times faster depending on your method. And we can't talk about nether portals without mentioning the bug with nether portals that can take you to your overworld coordinates in the nether. And this allows you to basically get to the far lands in less than like 45 minutes. I made a whole other video about how to take advantage of nether portals. You can check that out if you feel like it, but this bug is still around to this day, just in a different way, using beds. So I know there's probably going to be more than a few comments about this down below, but yes, commands, they exist. The teleport command, it is very, very fast. Many fast. It goes extremely very fast, in case you weren't aware. It's incredibly speedy. So what is the fastest way to travel in Minecraft? Well, obviously it is hands down the teleport. I mean, it's basically instant, it's basically easy, and we should all just use that forever in Minecraft because it's clearly the hands down winner. But on a more serious note, the Riptide, Rain, and Elytra brings you in at 220 blocks per second. You're gonna wanna use some totems while you're doing this because seriously, the terrain just sneaks up in front of you. It's like walls, they just jump out in front of you, man. There's no mountain, and then there's a mountain. Be careful when you're flying with the Riptide Elytra. I'm telling you, 220 blocks a second is no joke. But after that is basically the blue ice highways. These come in at about 80 blocks per second. Easy to build, but also very, very expensive. But of course, you can also supplement the blue ice every other block for a regular ice. And in fact, doing a packed ice and a regular ice every other block also comes in very, very well. Now, the speed horses are also technically a very fast way of traveling. They're also very flexible as well. You can use them in any dimension. It just takes a bit of time and determination to get a higher generation. That way you get the higher speeds, but there's essentially no upper limits. So if you breed enough generations, you're gonna get like, 200 blocks per second horses. So here's the times for absolutely everything I tested in today's video on screen for you to enjoy. Hopefully this video saves you a little bit of time in your Minecraft world and helps make your travel a little bit more efficient. That way you can spend time doing other fun things. If you enjoyed this video, then of course leave a like. It significantly helps out the video and the channel a ton. If you're new here, then consider subscribing. And otherwise, I'll see you all down in the comment section. Thank you so very much for watching. And then there was silence.